started. I call the meeting to order. If you could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to the May 17th, 2018 Town of Riverhead Planning Board Work Session. We're going to take one discussion item out of sequence today. Number 4, Real Life Church of Wading River. We're going to put them on first.
Praise the Lord.
Do you want to put it over here?
Oh, thank you. I didn't see these. Thank you.
Okay, if you could just introduce yourselves, please.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, good afternoon, members of the board. My name is James Manicone. I'm a partner at JM2 Architecture in Farmingville, New York. And
Mac Greco, pastor of Real Life Church, Wading River.
Okay. All right, Greg, so what do we have, an expansion here?
Yeah, so, planning departments received and reviewed a site plan application for the expansion of an existing church. The site plan, as it was submitted in its initial stages, proposes a two-phase expansion. The first phase consists of an approximate 3,100 square foot addition onto the eastern side of the church, along with lighting, landscaping, and drainage, parking, and sanitary improvements. The second phase proposes an additional 2,800 roughly square foot expansion further eastward on the church. Execution of this site plan will require a special permit from the town board for the expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use. The special permit, the applicant must first obtain all necessary variances before the town board can act on it. They must receive the special permit before the planning board can act on it, so they've got a couple of steps to that. The proposed expansion of the church is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. Coordinated review is recommended between the planning board, town board, and the zoning board of appeals, as it will require site plan approval, a special permit, and several variances. There was actually a resolution that was approved at last night's town board meeting for the town board to circulate a request for lead agency status for SECRA review. So we'll be sending out that letter shortly to you guys. The main church site, which is comprised of 2 parcels, tax maps number 600-72-2-7 and 8. The 2 main parcels are located on the east side of Dogwood Drive and Wading River, approximately 370 feet north of the intersection of Sound Avenue, 25A, and Dogwood Drive. The church also owns another 0.38 acre parcel, which is located on the west side of Dogwood Drive. I'll refer to that going forward as the satellite parking area. Total area of the 2 main church parcels on the east side of the road is approximately 1.996 acres. Parcels are presently approved with a 2,533 square foot single frame building used as a church, as well as a shed and a small asphalt parking area. It is unclear when the property became a church, as the structure did not have a certificate of occupancy or a letter of pre-existing use. I know it has been in operation as a church for a number of years, it's just unclear as to exactly when. All 3 parcels are located within the RB 80 zoning use district. The main church parcels on the east side of Dogwood Drive are bordered by LIPA overhead transmission lines to the north, 50-foot wide undeveloped town-owned right-of-way known as Front Street to the south, and by a vacant residential parcel to the east. The satellite parking area on the west side of Dogwood Drive is bordered again by the LIPA overhead lines to the north, an automotive repair center to the south, and vacant land to the west. It is unclear as to the nature of this vacant land to the west, because that's actually part of the town of Brookhaven. That's the town boundary between Riverhead and Brookhaven. Going through the parking on the site plan now, I have since received a updated submission which addressed some of these. The staff report just hadn't been updated. The initial submission did not take into account the sanctuary space in the basement of the church with regards to the parking calculations. I believe that has since been addressed, and between the spaces that they are able to provide on the main church parcel as well as the satellite parking area, they are going to be able to be compliant with the town code requirement for parking. Now, that satellite parking area is very critically important to this application. There is a section of the code which allows for off-site parking to be utilized, similar to what we do with Farm Country Kitchen, as long as it's located in proximity to the subject parcel. One of the important things is that for the proposed expansion, in order to meet the parking, they do need to retain that parcel, so any sort of site plan approval needs to include some sort of condition which correct, that satellite parking area needs to be retained. If the church ever went to go to sell that parking area, or if they ever leased it, or somehow lost the rights to utilize it as parking, they would need to apply for variances in the ZBA, pay any additional fees. Not that that's desired, because I believe if they ever sold that parking lot, it would lead to people parking on Dogwood Drive during services, which is not something we would necessarily desire. The satellite parking area right now is currently improved with an asphalt parking field with 21 striped parking stalls and an existing single-story frame garage, which is used as a storage space for the church. Again, it is unclear when this building was constructed. It has no CO or letter of pre-existing use. In terms of the,
Is this the garage area here?
no, so this is the main church parcel.
Yeah, I understand.
This is the satellite
No, I'm
parking area.
talking about this piece. I thought you said there was a garage area.
No, this is the garage.
Oh,
The garage is located on the satellite parking area.
This here is the, this is a planned future expansion. This is the current
Right.
configuration of the
What you're
church.
gonna build.
This is what we're building, and this is a phase 2 expansion for down the road.
Just speaking to the satellite parking area a little bit further, it is unclear when the asphalt parking area was constructed. Researching historical aerial imagery, it was constructed sometime between 2004 and 2007. I'm unsure exactly as to what specifications it was designed to. It was paved over and constructed without any kind of approvals from the town, no site plan, no building permits. That was done prior to Mr. Greco when he took control of the church, so it was not done by this applicant. It's noted that the satellite parking area on the west side of Dogwood is significantly over impervious coverage. Basically, the entire lot is pretty much an asphalt parking lot. Impervious coverage is calculated at approximately 72.7%, where 15% impervious is permitted in the RB 80 district. So that's one other, a variance that the applicant will need to apply for prior to any special permit or site plan approval. The proposed Phase 2 development is slightly problematic because the site plan does not indicate any use of the proposed 2,800 square foot Phase 2 expansion. Without knowing what the area is going to be utilized for, it's impossible to perform calculations with regards to parking, sanitary flow, water flow, et cetera. So if that Phase 2 expansion is going to be going forward and it's still proposed, the applicant needs to just provide some additional information for a secret review. Speaking about the land clearing on the lot, on the two main church parcels on the east side of Dogwood Drive, I estimate the site plan does not specifically indicate the amount of ground disturbance, but it appears as though 51,000 square foot of wooded area will need to be cleared and graded to facilitate the proposed expansion. I went out and did a site visit in February of 2018. I have a picture that I provided on page 7 of the staff report. Basically, the wooded area was full of dead and or dying trees. From what I could see, just from a brief glance of it, it didn't really appear to be any significant vegetation that was, critical and really needed to be preserved. Although a full, complete walkthrough of the wooded area wasn't possible just due to overgrowth and, just brush throughout the site. The site plan does propose a variety of landscaping throughout the property. They're proposing 12 azalea bushes, a row of boxwood hedges, and 4 red oak trees in front of the church building on the frontage with Dogwood Drive. parking lot area is proposed to be bordered by 9 cherry blossom trees and 5 little leaf linden trees. They're proposing Wilton carpet junipers in the parking lot in these 2 little landscape islands. Staff recommended that additional cherry blossom trees be added along the northern boundary of the parking area, as the proposed cherry blossoms can grow to have a 12 to 15 foot wide canopy, and they're being proposed spaced out at approximately 40 feet, which might leave some space in between, so if they can just tighten that up, provide a little more vegetation, would look nice on the site. Also recommended some additional trees along the eastern property boundary, just in case that vacant residential parcel is ever developed. By the time it gets developed, those trees should be nice and should provide some screening from a residential lot. Staff also recommends that the islands in the parking lot should be planted with boxwood hedges, as people would likely walk over and kind of trample over the proposed Wilton carpet juniper. Kids coming out of cars running through the site. They are proposing a number of post-mounted LED lighting fixtures throughout the property. The heights and the color temperatures were compliant. They're proposed at 12 feet high and a color temperature of 3,000 degrees, which the board has been requesting. But the applicant must submit revised plans which show that these fixtures are dark sky compliant because they did not appear to be dark sky compliant.
So are you going to reapply, or are you gonna try to seek a variance to, or are you gonna comply with the dark skies?
No, we will seek to comply.
Thank you.
Front Street, which is the undeveloped paper street on the south side of the subject site. Right now, it's a 50-foot unopened town road. Staff recommends that the planning board should consider a 2.5-foot potential future dedication along the southern property boundary. What that would allow for is if Front Street was ever developed, we'd have the 2.5 feet, get 2.5 feet on that southern side of that street to allow for the 55-foot wide right-of-way as required by town code. Access to the site, they're proposing the same access point. Town code section 301-231E3 requires that two-way traffic have a minimum 24-foot wide access. The site plan only proposes 23 feet. That's a minor point that could be addressed through revisions. The site plan did not provide any details regarding the size of the proposed water service. Details of this water service must be provided so that the Riverhead Water District can provide accurate comments. And again, all utilities pursuant to Town Code 301-307G, all new utilities must be constructed underground, so any electrical lines will need to be brought underground. They will require several variances for impervious coverage, both on the main church parcels as well as the satellite parking area, for building within a required setback, and for utilizing that off-site parking area across Dogwood Drive. I received comments from the superintendent of the Riverhead Highway Department. He agreed with staff recommendations that the satellite parking lot to the west, applicant must provide a painted pedestrian walkway across Dogwood Drive between the main church parcels and the satellite parking area, along with appropriate pedestrian crossing signage. It was also noted that there is some broken curbing on the eastern side of Dogwood Drive, which must be addressed and repaired during the site plan process. Received a title report, which the town attorney's office had reviewed. There were no issues found with the title report. Have not received comments yet from the Riverhead Water District, but it is noted that the site plan does not indicate an RPZ valve. Pending comments from the Riverhead Water District, they will likely need one, so the site plan will need to be updated to show details of the RPZ and the proposed location.
Is the existing building right now served by public water?
I believe it is. I believe it's city water, yes.
The Architectural Review Board reviewed the architectural plans and the site plan on their March 28th, 2018 meeting, and they recommended approval of the project as proposed. Still waiting for comments from the town engineer as well as the fire marshal. It is noted that although the area of disturbance is not specifically called out on the plan, it definitely appears that it's going to be over an acre of disturbance, so it will require preparation of a SWIP and approval by the town engineer.
Pastor, I had a question for you.
Yes.
Are there any other daily uses such as daycare or schools or
No.
just religious?
Correct.
No commercial uses?
No.
Thank you.
They said that, or Greg mentioned that you were fairly new to the church there.
That is correct.
Are you aware of any other approvals or applications to the town in the past and how it came to be what it is today?
I'm very unfamiliar with any of the procedures that happened prior to me being there. The only thing that I do have knowledge of is that the church has been in existence for about 40, 50 years now.
At that location?
At that location.
Okay.
Prior to that, it was a parts manufacturer for plane gauges. It's the only knowledge that I have of the building's use.
Okay. And the reason for the expansion, I guess, increased membership or
That is correct.
outgrown it over the years?
That is correct.
Do you know what the intended use is for phase two?
It would be, in phase two, we don't exactly know when phase two would be designed, okay? Right now, we're focused on phase one. Phase two, the way we design the sanctuary is, as the church grows, this phase two was designed for future growth, and it would be an expansion of the sanctuary. So the hope would be as his congregation grows and his patrons, mount in the volume, that this is another expansion for that, as to allow the church to grow. Because if you go to his church right now, this small section of this plan that I show is the sanctuary. So it's really undersized for his needs. He actually has multiple services to accommodate the patrons in the community. So this here, we feel, will address the growth, and then the thought is, Pastor Matt is he's got a young congregation, and the thought is, as it grows, this would be a second phase, but it would only be sanctuary.
Do you live at the facility now, or
I do not.
does anybody?
No.
You mentioned that the existing building now has a basement.
It does not.
No? What you said?
No, the proposed building will have a basement.
Okay, because
There
that
is
was
there is some assembly space,
That was my second question.
yeah,
Just the new building.
correct.
So any classrooms that you have are basically Sunday school, that kind of thing? They're not
That is all we,
daycare or anything?
no, we only have a meeting of children on Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights.
Okay.
You have a kitchen?
We do not. Currently, we have a little kitchenette with a fridge and just some cabinetry, and in the proposed drawings, we are doing the same thing, kitchenette.
So no oven, no full.
This isn't a food control application.
No. We do meals, we do catering. We don't do cooking on site.
What's stored in the garage and that parking across the street?
That's just like ministry supplies for kids ministry, youth ministry, stuff like that.
In the landscaping plan, they have proposed boxwoods. Greg, didn't we, in previous applications, didn't they not want to see those because they're so susceptible to disease, those boxwoods? One of the other applications mentioned that.
I'm not aware of that, and it hasn't come up in my applications, but I can do some research on that.
Boxwood's a pretty common screening plant that I use in multiple municipalities to hide parking and.
One of the landscape architects that were in here, one of the other ones had mentioned that they're very susceptible to disease. I just want to point it out.
All right. No, I did just want to reiterate with that phase two. I believe phase two has been removed on this new provision, but if it's something that's going to be contemplated, it needs to be.
That would be an entirely separate application. It would be a separate, completely unrelated to this application. It was a discussion that we had internally with Pastor Matt, thinking about this design, this layout, how we would orient the sanctuary in the event that, say, 5 years down the road, we want to readdress this with an expansion. The hope is that as the community grows and his congregation grows, that there is this need, and we would gladly go to the town for variances or see how we can address that, but,
We just wanna make sure we avoid segmentation of the review for secret, so I mean, even if it's a conceptual, if they don't have any intention of building it out right now, we wanna just be able to analyze it, what are the parking impacts, traffic, stuff like that, we wanna be able to account for it now, so even if it's just a conceptual build out, it's something we wanna look at.
yeah.
You're showing here is a considerable amount of parking spaces, but from what you say, they're still short?
Well, so on this plan, I believe on this, I think they're providing 98,
Not across the street or just these?
combined,
Combined.
yeah. On site, they're proposing 68.
And you said that's out.
With the satellite parking, they need to retain that. Just on site, based on the calculations,
What's gonna happen then, what's they come in with phase two?
well, that's why we need to look at it. And that's why, if they're proposing a phase two, we need to know the size, we need to know what the potential uses of the area are.
What the uses are, they don't have the parking.
Well, I mean, there's, if it's fixed assembly, if it requires one space per 100 square feet, or if it's gonna be more sanctuary space, which requires one space per 3 seats, that's something that we need to look at and be able to, do the calculations on.
Because it's a church, he may have, we may have 100 spots, let's just take a number, 100 spots. But if he has 4 different services, or 3 different services, I mean, it's, I would think that would be sufficient enough parking, with that, I mean, I'm not, we have 2 services now.
We currently have 2 services. We have on average, about 27 vehicles, per service currently.
When are your services?
9 AM and 10:30 AM.
Sundays?
Correct.
I believe there also is a section of the code, I don't know the numbers specifically, but there is a section of the code which if the applicant can prove that, I believe, like the intensity of the uses warrant, a little bit of relaxation, the board can grant them some relaxation. So for example, if the assembly spaces in the basement of the church are used for children who are coming with their families, it's not necessarily gonna require an increase in vehicles to the site. So the board can give some relaxation.
Primarily, that's what it
Right.
is.
We,
That's what it is, yeah.
we have on average, we have 150 on average in attendance on a Sunday morning. Of those, 50 to 60 are children, which is why I'm trying to give some understanding, some clarity on the number of vehicles we have in attendance in each service.
I'll research that section of the code and find out exactly what kind of relaxation the board can offer, and if that'll help be able to move the site plan along.
What's the application we have? I think we already approved it up on the corner of 25A and Dogwood. They're converting that dentist office,
Oh, KJJ Construction it's called now.
and that's been approved. They're putting a restaurant in there?
Restaurant.
15-seat restaurant.
Okay.
That basically abuts the property on the other side of the Front Street,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
I don't know if it goes that deep, but it's there.
No, it does not go as deep as our property does. There's another lot that is vacant behind for sale to the east of him.
And I just wanted to bring up, because this application was reviewed by the town board at last week's work session. The town board did have some concerns about traffic on Sunday mornings, being that Dogwood and 25A is an unsignalized intersection. Just curious if the planning board shared some of those traffic concerns to warrant if it was gonna be a significant
Well,
impact
that's why I
to
asked
the area.
about the restaurant on the corner, but, I mean, your Sunday mornings.
Correct.
I don't think so.
it's light.
And at one
Well,
point,
just
they were
so the board is aware, there's another application for a shopping center across 25A, and that will most
That
likely
was supposed
require
to-
a
That was
signal.
supposed
Yeah.
to provide a signal.
Yeah,
whatever gets-
they were supposed to provide a signal there.
Because of the fuel parlor, same problem.
Yes.
Board have any other questions or any other concerns? All right.
You've been to the town board,
Yes.
Yeah.
and you went to secret, is that where you stand? You're going to go to ZBA now?
Correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I hope you fall more quick.
As do I.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the accommodations.
You're welcome, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is number 1, Hilton Garden Inn, Marriott Residence Inn.
If anybody would like another copy of the report, let me know. I have an extra here.
I only look like Ishwa, I'm not Ishwa. He had to go to the little boy's room. Hopefully he won't be too long.
The applicant is proposing to construct an additional access driveway, retaining walls, curbing, and pavement areas on a parcel with 2 hotels, a Hilton Garden Inn and a Marriott Residence Inn. They're located on the north side of Old Country Road, across from the Long Island Expressway exit ramp, and east of the looped LIE entrance ramp, in the Destination Retail Center zoning district.
You forgot the thing.
A guardrail currently prevents crossing Old Country Road at the site. There is one existing curb cut and driveway on Old Country Road, located to the far east of the site frontage. That's restricted to rights in and rights out only. The additional proposed curb cut and driveway will be approximately 12 feet as measured from the shared property line, with this triangular parcel to the west. So it's going to be on the far west side of the site. The guardrail and the corresponding right in, right out driveway are kind of inconvenient for visitors coming from the west, who need to travel east past the site and make a U-turn to get there. And then for those leaving the site and wishing to go east, they have to travel west and make another U-turn. It should be noted the LIE exit ramp does not merge with Old Country Road until east of the proposed driveway. Until that point, there's a concrete barrier separating the off-ramp from Old Country Road. Parcels directly adjacent to the site include the DOT maintenance yard to the east, a vacant triangular parcel to the west, which I pointed out. It has steep slopes up from the hotel site and steep slopes up from Old Country Road. There's another vacant parcel to the east and south, which is here, to the south of the Marriott Residence Inn, that has been graded to match the grade of the hotel property. There's also a future cross-access agreement in place for this property. So I had provided an aerial view and some pictures showing where the driveway is going to be, also showing the sloped landscape area at the front of the site. That's a New York State DOT slope easement. Also showing some equipment that had been on site when I was doing the site visit, that the applicant has indicated were there because he was doing some maintenance and was hoping to start construction. Excuse me. So I provided some background. I won't go through all of it, but the two-phase site plan for the Hilton Garden Inn and the Marriott Residence Inn was approved in 2006, and it was subsequently amended. Just important to note, there was transfer of development rights for construction of the Marriott Residence Inn. 36.23 development rights were conveyed and recorded on July 1st, 2016. We also did an administrative site plan for an amendment for the Marriott Residence Inn, landscaping and things like that. A certificate of occupancy was issued for the Marriott Residence in, so both hotels now have COs. So this is not actually an amendment, it's considered a new site plan. As far as traffic goes, traffic impact statement was submitted when the site was originally proposed to be developed. No traffic study was provided for this application, but I would like to jump to page 10. There was like a flurry of emails going back today with information from DOT and DPW. So first I'll just go through what information I had gotten originally and then the new information I received today. The applicant had submitted to DPW prior to the actual site plan application, and DPW had gotten back with a letter, and they had indicated, besides their usual boilerplate, that a signed traffic signal maintenance agreement had to be received from the town prior to Suffolk County issuing a permit. Then when we did get the application, we resubmitted it to DPW, and they had come back and wanted to have all the sidewalks and handicapped ramps be ADA compliant, both the new and the existing curb cuts. So they didn't mention the signed traffic maintenance agreement, so I reached out to them, and they did reiterate they needed the traffic signal maintenance agreement before issuance of a permit. As far as New York State DOT goes, due to the location close to the LIE and the fact that we had these DOT slope easements, the application was submitted to DOT. They came back and said they needed a traffic impact study, including a signal warrant analysis, among other things. So, I did reach out to DOT about, what their status was. They said they were no longer, they were deferring TIS approval, traffic impact statement, the study to Suffolk County DPW, and that Suffolk County DPW had jurisdiction.
So they initially said they wanted it, and then they deferred it to the county?
Correct. And they also said that as long as their easements were not affected, and the work area has a Suffolk County Department of Public Works permit, no DOT permit would be needed. So I guess what they mean is, they're not changing the slope except to cut through it. They did recommend DOT that the eastbound left turn lane be fully protected, which means that would be a green turn arrow. And I reached out and said, has there been communication between what DOT is recommending and what does Suffolk County know about this? So I did reach out. DPW said a traffic signal warrant analysis was done. And they said that no protective left turn appeared necessary, but they would evaluate once the signal was operational. And they also reiterated the traffic signal maintenance agreement. So it appears that the two traffic agencies are satisfied. So I just wanted to let the board know the latest on that.
Is a traffic impact analysis needed?
Well, apparently not, according to DPW.
Okay.
I'm not sure what's included in a traffic signal warrant analysis, but hopefully sufficient study was put into this to.
I'm surprised that they didn't require an eastbound left turn.
Maybe.
lane. Only because it means if they do it later, they've got to do it. They've got to pay for it. They want, they said they're gonna do it later on. That means they're gonna have to pay for it.
Is anything I said incorrect or
No,
so?
whatever she said is correct. they said it's not needed right now, they left out, it's not warranted.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this actual turning lane, as you're traveling east on Route 20, on 58, you would be making left, isn't there only one lane there? Isn't that where everything comes together?
Further up.
It's further up? Well, further up, I mean, not far from there, you have the, how far is it from the exit of Walmart?
That's a ways.
That's
Yeah,
way-
it's quite a ways.
That's what I thought. So I think this is where 50, if you're coming off the expressway, you cannot use this, you said.
Correct.
No, you can't use
So
it.
this is only good for someone that's traveling to the hotel and coming from the west of the hotel and turning in there. And then obviously to come out and then turn, you can travel east on 58.
Okay.
But that's where everything comes together. I'm not sure I understand.
Little further down though,
It comes
it's
together,
not
it comes
exactly.
together here. See what-
The,
Yeah, but this is a one lane here and that's a one lane
It
here.
necks down from 2 to 1 so that you can pull it.
Okay, so there's enough room in there to get 2 lanes? Because the traffic will back up there like crazy because of that, that bottleneck there.
maybe I
especially
can
in-
show you a different
I think
picture, that might be helpful.
You can
Shot of them right there.
This is the actual
Hey, Lee,
intersection.
Lee, can you just bring your plan? Perfect, thanks.
Where's the overpass? Coming off the LA.
That's that way.
Back here.
It's way back here.
Somewhere in here.
This is what I was thinking about.
Yeah,
is what
this-
I was
this
thinking
is-
about. I
there's
thought it
a-
was-
Yeah, but it
There's
does
an
narrow,
asphalt-
it
It
does
narrows
narrow
here. Yeah,
to
I know
one
it
lane
does.
back there.
I know it does, it's one lane here. I mean, that's my only way, how are you gonna put a turning lane in here is my only question. I don't think
Yeah,
there's
they-
enough
no,
room
they
there.
have to widen this and that.
Well, there's a guardrail here, there's a guardrail here so that
Move
you,
it, it's gotta be moved, if you're gonna have to put another lane.
so this is gonna be a little bit more involved than I think.
What does this do to the parking on site?
Basically, the applicant said that, let me flip to that portion, that 6 parking stalls would be eliminated, but, when you actually count the number of stalls, there's, if we can flip to the site plan, there's a couple of stalls that were, striped because there's a fire hydrant, so it's actually 245 stalls. Since I spoke to Dick Ehlers, and because there was a transfer of development rights for construction of the Marriott, it felt that the planning board has the authority to allow not meeting the parking schedule. You can vary the parking required here. I did bring up in the report that, because I saw that a couple of stalls were blocked by snow, if the applicant feels that he needs a snow storage area, he might want to stripe out additional stalls for that. Also, as far as parking goes, I was planning on getting to it later, but if the board feels that a cross-access, future cross-access is needed to the west of that triangular parcel, that would knock out a couple of stalls as well.
Meaning this piece right here?
Yes. Of course, that would have to be to the north of those retaining walls.
What's over there now?
It's vacant,
Just
vacant wooded.
Well, if you don't give them cross-access, they'll be pretty much locked in there and not be able to use
That's what
what's
I
proposed.
thought.
Nobody can use this site unless there's a cross-access easement between this and this. There's no way you can enter and exit.
No, no.
Yeah, this would allow them to have access to the signalized intersection. If anybody, at any point wants to develop it.
That piece is picked up on tax sale, they're trying to sell me that. I
couldn't tell you how many times. I think years and years ago, when the expressway came out, that was one of the pieces that was unusable. I mean, it's probably 15 feet above the roadbed.
Right, it would be very
Pretty tough
difficult for them
piece.
to have a curb cut onto 58.
They wanted me to buy it to use it for tax credits at one point. And triangles you can't develop on anything, you know.
Yeah, Riverhead will put 2 restaurants on that.
What?
And Riverhead will put 2 restaurants on that.
So I wanted to determine if the board finds the reduction in parking acceptable.
By how much is it?
It would be 8 stalls.
And does that include, like, allowing for?
But that's 8
8
is
stalls
including,
below the requirement.
Right.
yeah.
Not including the future cross-access, which might bring it up to 10, let's say, or 11.
But we have the authority to do it because they use development rights.
Correct, exactly.
And I think we came up with 6 stalls though.
Right, 6
Yeah,
stalls would
6
actually be taken
Right.
out, but you didn't take into account the 2 that are taken out by the striping, according to my
The
count.
fire hydrant.
Right, for the fire hydrant. So that would reduce it further.
How is the parking on the site now? I mean, I've seen it several times, it was pretty filled to capacity. Is parking a problem right now?
It's adequate.
It's adequate?
I don't see an issue with it. I am looking into, as Karen knows, we're looking into buying that corner piece also.
This piece over here to the
And,
east.
and mainly because I don't want a neighbor in front of us, but we talked to the board, them about making a parking lot there. As of yet, we're still negotiating. The owner is in Arizona and he doesn't return calls.
Is this, is this gonna be new here? Is that why you have it?
Yeah, you
Highlighted?
made it, Yes.
Yeah.
We'll have to take it down and rebuild it,
down.
right?
Yeah, you have to take it down, regrade it, improve it.
Might be a good idea if we took a look at the traffic coming through here, whether it is necking down to one lane, because if it is, and you put a light there, that could really cause a problem. People coming in this direction.
Well, if the planning board wants more information, they can certainly request it. If the board wants a traffic impact statement study or wants certain
I don't
things
think I
studied,
said
they can.
traffic, I was just saying we should take a look at how the traffic flows through here. Is this actually 2 lanes, let's say, through here, or is it actually necking down to 1 lane?
No, it's 2 lanes.
Like, satisfy-
But the right lane ends down here, when you come to the overpass.
Well, that's sort of what we're saying. All right, let's
does,
revisit
it ends.
that's all.
That was the reason for my question, it ends.
Well, maybe the board wants to go out there and actually take a look at it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, so before we make a decision on anything.
The board should know why we're doing this. The accident that happened with those 4 girls that were killed out east, we potentially have that every day, every Friday and every Saturday with the limousines that come to pick up the bride. We all know about the illegal U-turn. Our plan is to change all of our GPS directionals.
Where do they have to go? They have to go down?
Get off the, no, they get off the
Hanger?
exit, no, they get off the exit before. And they come down, what is that road that comes across?
Edwards.
Yeah, and then make a right, and then our traffic, we want our traffic to come in here.
Yeah.
Because what happens, and it, I mean, you can watch it happen every day. People go by there and nobody goes down and makes the illegal. Everybody does the illegal, but when the limos do it, it's identically the same problem as what those.
Right.
That's when this really started.
Yeah.
And it was Marriott that picked it out in the very, not that they picked it out, but they brought it forward.
So, does the board want to hold off on the parking issue until
I'm gonna go take a look,
Okay.
yeah.
the board will take a look at that, as well as the roadway? Now Now I'm gonna go back to where I was. Um, So basically, two out lanes, one for rights and one for left are proposed, and one in lane is proposed. As I said, there's a steeply sloped landscaped area at the front of the property, so they are proposing two parallel curved retaining walls on the west side of the proposed driveway. The retaining walls are proposed to be made of split-faced concrete. The plans show a 2% slope from the new driveway to the closest retaining wall, and the same slope between the two retaining walls. 1-on-3 slope is shown to the west of the upper retaining wall. On the east side of the driveway, they're not proposing retaining walls. They're showing a 2% slope within 6 feet of the driveway, which transitions to a variable slope of a maximum of 1-on-3 further away from the driveway. They're proposing 3 new catch basins, and a new light pole. They also need to, rearrange some landscaping. You know, there were some technical issues. We need a corrected survey with a new revision date. There were various discrepancies, that, you know, showing parking stalls too short and too narrow, which I don't think actually exists out there. So, we really do need an updated survey.
We have them right here.
Okay. And then the inaccuracies on the survey affected the existing condition plan. So there's various things that need to be corrected regarding, you know, the number of actual stalls between these two peninsulas. I went out there and I counted, I believe it was 15, but it's shown as 18 in other places. So, I requested that the project engineer carefully check the plans to make sure there are no discrepancies regarding the existing improvements. So I won't go through everything here, but one of the things that was important, it looked like from the plans that the traffic signal pole or other improvements were located within the proposed public sidewalk, so clarification is needed on that.
Yeah, we did, I think, traffic study was done by McLean, and they have provided responses to all Karen, your comments,
Okay,
and I'm gonna present them today. You can take a look though.
okay.
And also they did the traffic impact assessment, and I'm gonna give you the document also.
Oh, okay,
So that's there, along with the package, and also sets of plans,
okay,
and their comments and responses to all of your comments. And what I did was I summarized all your comments and a response to each one of them.
okay, very
So you
good.
can take a review.
Landscaping, there were some discrepancies and issues there. You know, with the caliper of the existing trees, there were discrepancies between the survey and the plan submitted. The survey indicated it was done February 10th of this year, so it should be accurate, one would hope. Also, the plan indicated that two trees would be relocated, but when I went out there, 2 trees had actually been removed, so I requested that they show 2.
Actually, the wind blew them over.
Okay.
They're heavy spruce, and the wind blew them over.
Not making any judgments,
Yeah.
just that they were
So we had to
gone.
remove them.
Okay.
They're too big, they were too big to stand up.
Just additional information, also, the shrubs proposed between the retaining walls grow approximately 5 to 6 foot wide, which fits in there perfectly. However, the shrubs were shown to be planted 13 feet on center, so the number of shrubs would need to be increased. I know Eshwar had brought up
Yeah.
that he had trouble getting larger plantings. 3-gallon containers are proposed, so I said, well, I had recommended 7 gallons. If he can't get that, maybe he could get 5 gallons and just
I think
provide
we did.
more of
And
them.
we verified that it
Yeah.
can be done, yep. They have to be special orders, but they can be gotten.
As far as lighting goes, the site was, particularly the Hilton side was built, I guess, 2006 or so. So it's been a long time. So I was asking for additional information on lighting. The plans had indicated that these were metal halide lighting, but I don't know if they've been replaced or what the color-corrected temperature is on the metal halide. The mounting height, I'm not sure of, because initially they were supposed to be a concrete pedestal and a pole, and when I went out there, there's no concrete pedestal. So, since Eshwar had done the original lighting plan, I thought it would be fairly easy for him to update it so we can make sure everything is in compliance. And the code has changed since I wrote this report, so you are required to have 3,000 Kelvin if it's LED lighting.
Do I have what?
If you have LED lighting, it has to be 3,000 Kelvin or less.
Color
Did
color
we submit
temperature.
that?
Yeah, we did that. What we did was, for this hotel, this all 3,000, we changed, I did the analysis, the resubmission, you'll find
Okay,
out.
I'll take a look
So
at it.
let me ask the question. Now, we just got a C of O on this. I don't know, those are LEDs, I don't know exactly what they are. Do they have to be changed also?
Well, I mean, technically they would, but I guess since there was transfer of development rights, perhaps the board could vary that.
No, this is 4,000 Kelvin,
It is 4,000
yeah,
Kelvin.
this one's 4,000,
but they
so we
got the
changed
CO
this with retrofit.
Before,
changed, right?
before the
Yeah, but
code
it's-
changed, but now the
it's
code,
grandfathered, or it's over.
there's no grandfathering.
Right.
So
Period's
the
over.
board could vary that since there was transfer of development rights. So, if you want to think about that, or you're good
The-
with that.
The analysis which I did was, this was for 4,000.
Let me
and
look
this
at
is
what they
3,000.
have first, and then I can get back to you
Yeah.
Yeah.
about what's there.
I mean, the
on the
parking, I
plan.
really don't have a big problem with, but the lighting I do.
So I'll get back to the
Okay,
board once
thank
I look at it. Just so the board knows, the SWIP was approved by the DEC because this was in 2006. The town engineer had some things they wanted wanted the applicant to provide to the DEC regarding the modifications. So I'm still waiting on some comments from the fire marshal and what have you. I put down here highway superintendent, there's no highway superintendent here, that was a mistake. And then I talked about the cross-access. So that's basically it. So, I guess what we'll do is the board will go out to the site and take a look, and I will review what was submitted, and then we'll figure out where we go from there. Does the board want to set a public hearing for this?
So the things that we're waiting for are really not significant, it's just our,
You know, it's landscaping, it's lighting,
Right.
it's, you know,
Didn't we address that in this? Yeah, I think we addressed everything in this application here.
I think, you know, what the public would pretty much comment on is the traffic and the
Yeah.
access.
Right.
I don't have a problem setting the hearing date.
Okay. And I might put it back on for discussion again. Sounds good, unless anybody has any questions.
So let me just tell you that on Thursday, all of the equipment that you made reference to is due to be taken out of there.
Okay,
Our agreement with the adjoining property owner is that when we finish construction, we would regrade and seed all of it. that's why we kept the equipment there. So it'll be, this week from today, it's due to be, all of it's be pulled out.
Okay, good.
Our plan was never to keep it there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you, folks. I don't know what we're taking, what we're leaving.
Okay, thank you.
You want me to drop it off in your office?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Good man, Antoine.
No, I wish I did.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Calverton Pods.
Thank you.
Thank you. You gonna open up the plan, Jake?
Yes. All right, so what we have here is an amended site plan application submitted on behalf of Calverton Distribution Pods. The site plan for Calverton Pods was given final approval by the Riverhead Planning Board on May 4th, 2017 by resolution number 23. This amended application is seeking changes to the approved landscaping plan as well as changes to fencing and a retaining wall on the approved plan. The proposed site plan amendment is a type 2 action pursuant to seeker with no further environmental review required. To detail the proposed landscaping changes, the originally approved site plan had proposed 2 rows of western arborvitaes along the western property boundary shared with the Riverhead Charter School. The approved plan had the 2 rows planted in a staggered fashion in order to create an effective visual screen from the Riverhead Charter School. During construction, Mr. Krupnik, the applicant, had discovered that the Riverhead Charter School had actually already installed a row of arborvitaes along that property boundary, actually on the Calverton Pods property line. I went out and did a site visit earlier last month, and I've got some pictures of the existing rows of arborvitaes on pages 2 and 3, just to give you an idea of what's there. They are pretty large, pretty mature trees. It was noted during the site visit that some of them had been knocked down. Unsure if that's due to construction or snow removal or however they got knocked down. The bottom line is some of them are kind of knocked over.
These were planted by the charter school.
They're planted by the charter school on Calverton's Calverton
Oh,
Pod.
your property?
Yeah.
Oh, that's convenient.
Convenient, but what happens if they die or they get knocked over, being that it was part of the approval?
They're maintaining them, they're right directly behind their, it shows the property line, and we have a relationship with them now.
I mean, they are installing irrigation to the site, to that portion of the property. I mean, the original site plan did indicate that all landscaped areas will be irrigated, so it will be maintained by the Pods irrigation system. I mean, being that they're on their property, they're shown on the site plan, I would think that the owners would be on Pod, even though the charter school installed them, they're on the Pods property, and they are. Now, what he's basically proposing, instead of installing 2 additional rows in addition to the existing, he's basically looking to use the existing row and supplement it with the second staggered row. Which, based on review of the project and a site visit, I believe that it'll accomplish the same goal. It's just requiring him to plant 31 less trees, so.
They look like they're spaced properly.
Yeah, they're spaced properly, and then when you stagger, when he installs the second row, it'll accomplish the same goal that was initially approved in the
What kind
site
of
plan.
fences there,
Look
the chain link?
wild arborvitae, a little wilder than a normal breed.
Yeah, I'm not sure what breed they are, but I mean, they're pretty mature, healthy
green-
arborvitaes of
green.
some sort.
What kind of fences in there now?
We installed a chain link fence to the top row,
Yeah,
and that's
so,
between the 2 rows, actually. The other thing.
Set back from your property
Yes,
line?
it is. Yeah, it's well within, everything is within our property, including their trees. As you can see, this was shot by BVB. One of the things that we've done, or two things that we've done, just a note here on this before we get off it, is that we've installed a well that the board has asked for over here, so we've got a 100-foot in-ground well in place strictly for landscaping, so we're not on any public water, and we've sleeved over to this. There was no water here at all from the school side, so we'll be watering the whole thing. And secondly, we're gonna retain their landscape service company to maintain our site. So there's a commonality. We have a working relationship with the school at this point in time. So that'll take care of both the problems.
And just to speak to the fencing on this western boundary, the approved site plan proposes 6-foot black chain link fence. The 6-foot chain link fence was the result of the town's consulting engineer's comments, which stated that the recharge basin should be secured in a manner acceptable to the planning board. In a follow-up discussion, we came and we discussed it, and the board felt it was appropriate to prevent kids from walking over and, falling into the recharge basin. The amended site plan is now proposing a 4-foot-high black fence, just shortening it by 2 feet. I don't believe it's a significant change. I mean, when the trees are mature, you're gonna still have a 4-foot fence in another row. I don't think anybody is gonna go, trying to charge through this site.
The 4 foot's between the 2 rows of trees. And we put a top rail on it.
Another amendment is the removal of a retaining wall. There was a retaining wall in this area along the western property boundary. During construction, the area of the site was able to be graded in compliance with the code, thus eliminating the need for a retaining wall, so they are seeking to remove the retaining wall. And there's also changes to approved fencing on the southern portion of the site. There was a 4-foot galvanized fence that was proposed along the site based on staff recommendations. What we didn't want to happen was to have pods sort of expand their outdoor storage. When I did a site visit on page 5, you can see a picture. The grade, there's a curb at the southern limit of the parking area, and the grading is not really appropriate. These pods generally need a very flat level surface to be able to store it. So the applicant is seeking to remove the requirement for that galvanized fence in the southern property. I didn't necessarily have a problem with that as long as the plan can be clearly updated to state that there will be no outdoor storage in the area. If it turns out if he goes and stores pods out there, he'll be in violation of site plan. We can address it through code enforcement, but based on the curbing and the grade of the site, I don't feel that the fencing was really, it's sort of redundant.
Well, we're also in the process of filing the amended site plan to put another 40,000 feet on this. So, it's really redundant.
Census coming down anyway.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a fence. We were able to get a 3-on-1 here and stabilize it. We're not sticking pods back in the mud and the trees, and there's a high concrete curb here, serves as a stop for anything that goes along the area, so it's 30 foot.
So the elimination of the retaining wall on this side here, was that a result of exporting material or a calculation error?
No, we were able to grade it in the field so that it wasn't necessary.
So the whole topo of the site is higher than it was?
It's the same. This grade falls off from here to the property line. The initial plan didn't show it set up that way, so we were able to grade it in the field satisfactory to code, and then with the second set of trees, it just worked out where it didn't require it. There's still a concrete curb up here, so it's not
Wasn't
country
significant.
spec. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, there is a curb on the Riverhead Charter School property, and as Mr. Krupnik said, there is a curb on their site, so.
There's no retail traffic or anything, it's just the trucks coming around and come back out again, that's all.
So, I mean, in terms of all of the, the proposed changes to the retaining wall, fencing, and the landscaping on the western boundary, I feel that it's still gonna be keeping in spirit with the initial approval. I don't find anything to be really out of order with the proposed.
There's no extra clearing on the
That's
northern section?
what I wanted to bring up. This section here, I'm glad you mentioned that, Ed. I mean, from what I envisioned when we originally approved it, it looks like it was cleared a lot more than
Wasn't touched.
wasn't touched.
No, during the
It's-
construction period, this was fully under SWIP, and the SWIP fence actually just came down a week or 2 ago, I guess, and was monitored the whole time. We never touched any of this stuff here, so what's there is still there. I don't even know if we got to the point where we're thinning this out now, we were supposed to take out the dead stuff and kinda clean up the
It
on-grade
looked like there was
stuff.
machine work in there to me.
No, that's back in here. That's
I went out, I did a site visit, I
Yeah.
took a measuring wheel, I measured from the curb to the line.
We walked
They
it.
did maintain the 52 feet. I think when the site was completely vegetated, I
When
think
this
it
was
gave
all
it a,
green, yeah.
I
that's
think it
right.
gave it a more full and robust look in that area. I
You
don't
can
know
see
that it
through
was-
this now.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
It's not, you couldn't before because this was green all the way up.
Yeah, you were
Okay,
looking
so
through
they-
back the
so
trees,
the,
so.
Yeah.
non-disturbance is.
The non-disturbance, they did hold to the 52, and when I walked up and down the frontage with 25, and I didn't see any evidence of any kind of clear, like, I mean, the underbrush was all still there, so. You know, I spoke with him, I'm like, don't touch the underbrush at this point,
Yeah,
let's get to the
this
board, because I
evening.
knew that was an issue, so.
No, we were asked, I think, as part of just remove any of the dead stuff and clean up the on-grade stuff, and that's it. And, I think we even ran some water out there, so.
If I mean, now, when they're coming in for an amendment site plan, if there's an opportunity for the board, if they would like to maybe see a couple of extra trees, I don't know if there's room here. You can, maybe Mr. Krupnik can speak to the landscaper, if they can supplement with some trees back here, which might provide an additional screening. Now might be the time if we wanna recommend that.
We wanted this clear so that we can bucket the snow over. That's why this was set up this way to begin with. So this plan works, and we've got a half a dozen of these all over the place in the area, New Jersey, and this works out really well with the recharge area. Eliminates all the
What about along here?
castings. We have no problem doing it. If you think it needed, we'll take another look at it.
I just didn't envision it being so open, and it's,
Yeah,
and I'm
because this
just-
was
I
all
agree,
dense,
yeah, I
that's
agree.
why. So when you look at it now, you see through it. It's really, it shows well. I mean, we have no problem putting a couple more trees in there, going through it.
Great.
And like he says, when we come back with the other site plan, we'll just make sure it's just part of that commitment, so.
Okay.
So does the board have any questions with this?
No.
All right.
They're in and they're
Your
operating, and they're
expansion?
very happy.
And your expansion gonna be the same size building?
This is, I think 45, the next one will be either equal to it or at least 40, yeah. We have 6-point-something acres. Yeah, so all this is ours.
All right, now, just in terms of approving this, I don't know if this is something, if the board, because I didn't prepare a formal resolution approving this. I don't know, Jeff, is this something that we can approve? without-
Administratively?
Yeah, administratively.
We've done that before, landscaping,
Yeah, so a minor, I'll draft up a resolution, I'll
and the
provide it to
neighbors are
council.
working with them, so.
Yeah,
All right.
just- and make it a commitment as we come forward. So there'd be other adjustments, I'm sure, but it worked out really well. Good. I don't know, has anybody seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been by.
Shows really well.
It was cool for me to walk past this, because this was one of the first sites that I worked on when I came here, so to see it come from, nothing to what it is now is very impressive.
Pretty quick.
So it's your fault.
It is.
We walked this, you and I, right?
A while ago, yeah, before they broke ground.
Yeah.
Are you hunters? We have hunters here all
No,
the time.
no,
You
no,
walking
we're
and hunting?
looking
or-
at
No, we were looking at it when you
It has
first
to
came
do
in,
with the shrubbery in the front, even over the
for the solar.
solar
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
That's all been corrected. And we put water to sleeve that. Great, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Verizon Wireless at Wading River 4.
Just want to state your name for the record.
India de Carmine, Amato Law Group for applicant Verizon Wireless.
All right, so what we've got is an administrative site plan application proposing to modify an existing wireless communications facility. The application consists of installing new equipment and related appurtenances. The site plan application does not impact the maximum height of the existing monopole.
Where is this?
Site of the work is located at 6232 Middle Country Road, approximately 1,100 feet west of Wading River Manor Road. The site is located within the RB80 zoning district. The parcel is 2.2 acres in size, is presently improved with a roughly 4,000 square foot building, used as a warehouse, as well as a wireless communications facility with a 102-foot tall monopole, 2 equipment enclosures and related appurtenances. The wireless communications facility was granted a certificate of occupancy on April 1st, 2012. Surrounding area consists of commercial trailer sales facility to the east, Fink's Country Farm to the west.
This is right by the town line?
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much. And there is also a small pocket of single-family residences located approximately 1,000 feet to the northeast of the wireless communications facility. The proposed action of the site plan by the applicant is considered an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. Staff recommends that the planning board assume lead agency status for SECRA review without the need for coordinated review. And it's further recommended that the proposed action will not have any negative impacts on the surrounding area, and recommend a negative declaration be issued. The proposed tower-mounted equipment consists of 12 new Verizon panel antennas, 3 new multi-distribution boxes, 12 new RRH units, 3 new hybrid flex cables, a new antenna platform with knee braces, equipment mounts, an ICE routing bridge from the tower to the ground-mounted equipment, and the new tower equipment will have a center line of approximately 88 feet above ground level on the tower. The groundwork proposed as part of the site plan application consists of demolishing an existing, I'm not sure if it's an equipment shelter or I don't know what we want to call it. There was some discussion.
I think it's an existing compound, and then we're gonna use the
So
same concrete piers.
they're going to demolish an existing compound, use the same concrete foundation. They're going to install a new 83 square foot steel canopy, installation of a new diesel-powered backup generator, Verizon equipment cabinets, underground electrical service, and new electrical meters.
All this new equipment is gonna go on, or is it replacing?
Well, it's a new facility for Verizon Wireless, but there was a Nextel
Oh,
facility
this is
there.
meant for you.
So it's new for us, and our antennas will be in between the height of the existing antennas, which I think the highest ones are AT&T and T-Mobile, so ours will be right in
So
between.
you, and this is in addition to what's there.
Yeah, it's an addition, but as to the equipment compound, it's basically going on the Nextel, what was originally the Nextel.
With the new equipment shelter, it was noted that there's a diesel-powered backup generator, and it does not specifically, the compound that they're installing is just a canopy. It's not an enclosed compound. I did research the proposed generator model that they're including just to kind of research potential sound impacts from it. The manufacturer's information indicates that the level of the sound level of the generator while it's operating is approximately 66 decibels at about 20 feet, which is, they compared it to the noise level of an air conditioner or a residential dishwasher.
How close are the houses?
They're over, it's about 1,000 feet to the nearest residential use. So I mean, if it's
They
a,
only go on when the generator.
only go on when there's a
goes
power failure, they do
Once
test
a
it,
month.
they're testing once a month.
So who else is on the site?
I believe it's AT&T and T-Mobile.
Do they have generators?
They may have generators, but again, they're only emergency generators.
No, I understand that, but you guys should share the generators instead of having 3 separate ones. So if you're putting a generator and they don't have them, you should size this one so that they can be shared between the 3 carriers, because the difference between 1 generator operating and 3 is a huge difference.
Understood. I would want to point out that
And it makes sense that if you're gonna need it, all 3 are gonna need it, power, right?
But you don't know if they have them on site now.
I
Do
can
we know,
double
Greg?
check on the plan.
I didn't, not 100% I can find out.
I would want to point out that the generator is enclosed.
Well, it says there's no attenuation.
The generator itself has a measure of sound enclosure. It's just, there wasn't a separate, I know on there were other applications where they actually provided a separate, a structure around their
I
facility.
think we have to be careful telling 3 different entities that they have to use the same equipment.
It actually works well, especially in the towns nearby.
coincidence that the houses aren't that nearby, but
4,000 feet, but why put 3 if you could use 1?
I'm not sure that we can all use one, but
So the site plan just indicates an AT&T equipment shelter and a T-Mobile equipment pad. It does not indicate the contents of what their equipment are. I mean, I could look at other site plans to see what they've got there.
No, I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to this. This is routine for us, but, you know, instead of having 3 generators and 3 separate diesel tanks on one piece of property, you know, it's been done elsewhere where it can be shared, you just have to size everything accordingly.
But you don't know right now if the other carriers have, again.
I apologize, I do not know right
But
now.
you're planning.
I assume they probably have emergency generators the same as we would anticipate having one. Which again, only would be during emergencies and tested once a week, just for a very short time remotely.
All right, we reviewed a structural analysis dated April 27th, 2018, prepared by a licensed engineer, which indicates that the existing tower and foundation have sufficient structural capacity to facilitate the existing as well as the proposed communications equipment. We also reviewed a RF exposure analysis report dated February 27th, 2018, which analyzed the RF exposure from the existing as well as the proposed equipment. The report established that the maximum power density at the upgraded facility, which is inclusive of all the equipment, was 3.1852% of the maximum permissible exposure limit as established by the FCC. So basically, it's 31 times below the maximum human exposure level. As is standard with these administrative cell tower applications, the town engineer required a post-construction analysis of the mounting, struts, and installation performed by a licensed engineer to show that the work conformed to the approved plans, design, and any structural improvements.
So the structural analysis was stamped by a PE,
Yes,
and
sir.
that included all the carriers operating with your proposed antennas?
Yes,
Okay,
on
and,
the pole.
okay, and the FCC compliance report also took into consideration all the other carriers operating?
It has to, yes.
Okay. Just like to be clear.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a resolution for the administrative approval.
Administrative approval or just secret?
Oh, no, it's an administrative approval. It'll claim lead agency, issue a negative declaration, and grant administrative approval.
Okay, next item on the agenda, we already did 4, is Brighton Early Discoveries.
And again, so this is, I don't know that the applicants are here, but this was just a quick, very quick update to bring you guys up to speed. At the last meeting, we granted Brighton Early Discoveries, which is the daycare center being proposed on Northville Turnpike. We granted preliminary approval. There were some conditions that the plans needed to be revised to comply with Suffolk County DPW comments. The design professional on the project has since he did a site visit with Ken Danzig from the Suffolk County DPW. The plans have been revised to comply with the DPW comments. So what we have on, we have a final approval resolution on at this meeting. I don't want to say that we're tying up the applicant, so we're moving the application along. Their biggest hurdle now at this point is just complying with those DPW comments and performing the required improvements.
What did they say?
So they did also update the plan to show limits of fencing, some minor revisions that I had requested, but right now their big hurdle is DPW, so.
Yeah, I mean, what did DPW say?
well,
What changes had to be made?
They do need to replace the aprons. There was some comments about stuff around the sidewalks. There were some poles. DPW agreed that some of their initial comments were a little too lofty for what they're proposing. So these plans do comply with them. I've sent out communication to the DPW to request the 239F. So they'll be reviewing this and they'll eventually issue their permit. And once they do, the applicant's gotta work with them. They're not gonna say that no one's gonna say that we're holding anybody up, so we're moving it along.
Okay, next item is 6, Great Rock.
And again, this was just because it's been a little while since we've visited the Great Rock site plan. Last time we came in, we clarified some issues as to the use, tents on the patio. The applicant has since provided us with revised plans which show drainage for the patio, and they've also addressed the issue of water overflow that was happening in the vicinity of Deer Run Court. We received comments from the town's consulting engineer, they just need some additional topography in that area. You know, it can be something that can be addressed between preliminary and final. So we've got a preliminary approval on at this meeting. The resolution does include a condition that there's gonna be no tents erected on the outdoor patio, which was something that was discussed at the last planning board
That's
meeting.
at completion of the facility, because.
Yeah, and that was something that Mr. Prusanowski had brought up. I mean, I can make it more explicit in the resolution on the newly constructed patio. They do have a tent out there now that they have permits for, but once the new
Yeah, I
facility is.
just wanna make sure it's clear that they're allowed to use it until the facility's up, and then
Yeah,
once the facility's up, that's it.
Yeah, I can definitely clarify that in the resolution.
And then that's gonna eliminate the outdoor activity, right, once the
Yeah.
inside's done?
Yeah, and once the patio is done, again, the applicant agreed to covenant that there will be no tents erected on that patio. So that should go a long way in making the neighbors happy and eliminating a lot of those disturbances that were happening.
Our plan is to, you know, we have to, if you approve the preliminary today, we wanna go full speed to get the final done and then get the building permit. And our plan is to start in the fall construction, because that's it, we're gonna sell the tent, get rid of it.
What did they do for that drainage problem?
They're proposing a number of leaching structures and drainage rings. I believe, so Mr. Gaudiello just requested some additional topographical information in that area, just to show that, you know, pitches work and everything's gonna drain properly. So that'll need to be reviewed by him upon the submission of the final site plan application. Once it gets his blessing, I believe there was one other comment that the applicant needs to demonstrate that the lights are dark sky compliant. That should be simple enough.
Just see how this reads here. This here says that no tent shall be erected on the outdoor patio. Maybe you should have,
I could, you know, no tent shall be erected on the newly constructed outdoor patio or something, just to clarify that.
right,
the
and then
new-
no tents after completion, you know, just to make sure it's clear.
You're
Please.
gonna have to amend that resolution, you know, before you vote on it, however it's gonna be.
All right, so,
I think you have a resolution on it today.
yeah, we do.
You know,
I mean, if you
So
wanna
let's
make
go
it
through
really,
it
what
and
the language is gonna
decide
be.
what we have.
Let's agree on it.
Right. We have to make it
say
clear,
after November 1st, 2018.
we just have to make it clear that they're able to use the tent now. Once the building's up, no more tents.
I think they have a permit for the
Oh, yeah, we have
tent
the
that's
permit
there.
this year, right.
So, once the patio is constructed, no chapter 2, forget the number, the public assembly, tents shall be erected on the site, really, right?
I just think it's a good idea if we have it clear now.
In other words, they have a permit for what they have, the
Right.
tent now. They might get another permit for another tent
Right.
in the interim, but once the patio's there, they're not going back for any more of these permits.
Right.
That's
To put the
correct.
temporary tent outside.
That's correct.
Very good.
The no tents shall be erected on the outdoor patio area.
I would say after November 1st, 2018, if that's okay with you.
After on the completed outdoor patio area. As proposed. As proposed, and no applications for any outdoor tents shall be granted after a CO is issued for the improvements of the site plan, right? I mean,
Yeah,
once the new facility is there, there are gonna be no more
Exactly.
permits for outdoor tents.
Right.
So it's sort of a two.
Yeah, this way you have a unforeseen problem and you're not constructing in the fall.
Yeah, let's not do the
You're still
things
able
that
to
you
come
may
back.
Yeah, in
They-
case we don't.
Dick, who issues
All right, so
tent permits?
The town board?
Town board. So we're telling the town board they can't do something?
Well, the fire, the fire marshal issues permits for
It's
camping.
part of a settlement.
Both the building department and the fire marshal, I get two.
All right, so we'll clarify that no tents shall be erected on the completed outdoor patio area as proposed, and that no applications for outdoor tents shall be approved once a CO is issued for the new site.
It's gonna,
Clear as mud.
sounds like you're telling the town board what to
Is it
do.
though? Because it doesn't really say activities, it just says.
Well,
activities.
If you're afraid of telling the town board what to do, you could say that they will
This
not
is
apply
preliminary.
for any
When the other one comes,
outdoor
we'll have all
tents.
the,
No outdoor tent
everything we need
applications shall
in
be
there.
made.
Shall be submitted.
yeah, no outdoor music, all of that stuff.
And on top of that, again, I hate to be a broken record, we already have a court-ordered stipulation of agreement with the town of Riverhead. Once the completion of this facility, we're not allowed to reapply anyhow. And but you can put it in here, Dick, I'm with you on that, put it in here too. So the town board's covered, because the town board passed it, they signed it.
No tents shall be erected on the completed outdoor patio area as proposed, and no applications for outdoor tents shall be submitted once a certificate of occupancy is issued for the new site.
Can you use some soundproof materials when you build this thing? Soundproof materials.
Okay, so before we take up the resolutions, are there any comments from the public on any resolution? No comments on resolutions, okay, number one,
Okay, I'll move resolution number 40, which is lead agency and negative deck on secret for Verizon Wireless.
Second the motion?
okay, just, we'll move this along, just with the understanding that you'll report back to us on the generator situation, okay? Okay, motion made and approved to approve resolution 40 for Verizon Wireless at Wading River 4, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved. Number two,
Move resolution, I don't know, maybe we should take a break for a while, or? I'm sorry, Vic. I'm gonna move resolution number 41 of the Riverhead Planning Board for the Great Rock Clubhouse preliminary site plan approval. So moved.
Second. A motion made and seconded to approve resolution 41 for Great Rock Clubhouse expansion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is approved.
I'll move resolution 42 for Brighton Early Discoveries for any final plan approval.
Second the motion?
A motion made and seconded to approve resolution 42 for Brighton Early Discoveries. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Resolution is approved. Any comments from the public on any matter in front of the planning board? Any comments from the public? Okay, minutes of May 3rd for approval.
Move
So
the
moved.
minutes of May 3rd.
Second the minutes?
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of May 3rd. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Next meeting date is June 7th, 2018, at 7 PM. Okay, I'm making note of that. Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Thank you.